Good morning. Thanks, Charles. You know, when I was asked to come and talk about building a digital culture, and then asked myself that this is a very daunting task, because when you deal with culture, it's no longer about dealing with specific silos, and it's all about dealing with the entire organizational culture. Yesterday we heard from Neil when he was saying, we've been talking about transformation for the last decade, which I agree with him. But my response to Neil is that, wholesale transformation and culture change is a costly task. It's so costly that it's not for the faint-hearted, and it's not something that we can achieve just at a go. So bear with us, Neil. We will get there. The other thing about issues around culture is that when you try to deal with culture and you deal with transformation, you have to ask yourself a couple of questions, and then you say, can I trade the culture like you trade your used car? And the answer to that, you cannot do that, because culture is part of your DNA. Now, what I'm going to talk about, I'm just quickly gonna remind everyone here about just pay the bills and talk about Trudon quickly in terms of what our organization is about. And if you look at the way we currently structured, we've got our traditional business, which is more on our media side, comprising of the yellow pages, the phone book, the mobile platform, the internet yellow pages, and we've got a phone services, which is like an assisted directory. So that's basically our media. And then on the other side, we work with partners on the digital side, whereby we are a premium Google reseller, and we've got agreements with the likes of Facebook as well. And at the bottom part of our structure, we've got other subsidiaries, and then you'll see how these fit in relation to this topic, and I will talk about them as we go along. So that's basically what our organization is. And in terms of our base of our organization is, if we talk about South Africa, it's a market of $3.8 billion US local advertising market. That's the entire country. But if you look at our share, it's only $110 million US. That's the share of Trudon. So, and in terms of the addressable market, we've got 750,000 SMBs, and in our customer base, we've got only 151K. So the questions that we always get asked is that, what happens about this? Is this a potential? Is it something that we've always been, and we've been trying to crack it, and some of it, as you've heard throughout the speakers, chain, it's even a big thing. As we get some in, the others are actually falling away. So that's why we're still hoping that we'll increase this number going forward. And on our online platform, in terms of the mix, 60% in our market searches our products using mobile, and around 40% still uses desktop. And our proposition in terms of go-to-market, we've got 175 field sales reps and 120 telesales reps. And then we've got about 55, after-sales customer service agents. So that's more or less the structure of our organization. Now, when Peter made a presentation, and then he showed us the books that we saw yesterday, and I was envious, because I remember those were the days, even in our country, whereby we had books that thick. And I recall I think it was about 4 years ago when we distributed the Johannesburg book, which was one of the bigger books. And because it had gone smaller, one of the thought leaders in digital actually tweeted. He took a picture of the book and he tweeted and he says, "Look how thin the Yellow Pages has come. Is this the end of an era?" That was the tweet. And then some of us had to respond and tell him that it's not the end of the era. There is still life, and the book still has some legs. Now, what I'm going to take you through is the stuff that you've heard. And I think most of the people have done this whole thing. I call it, it's more about our phase of transformation. Starting with phase one. Good old days, majority of our revenue sitting here in print. And all we had to do is just adapt. Change from this platform, not even change, extend the offering to the online world. Did we do it the way it's supposed to be done? I would say no. At that time, you have this book that has got 3,000 categories or headings, and all you are doing, you are just transferring that and then assuming that people search on the web the similar way that they search the book on the index, when in actual fact, that was not the case. That was the first phase. So we discovered that the web doesn't have an index, and people search based on free text. And all the things that we did, we tried free text, and because we couldn't adapt to that, and people started saying, gee, we still want name and location, you know, and then we kept on reversing back. And then the other thing is that we extended the offering into mobile and tablets. And if you look at phase one, revenues were still more in print, and but the result of this whole transformation phase was that print decline was not compensated by the online. So that was the first phase. Then we moved on in the first phase when we realized that we had this whole challenges, and we looked at what was happening in the Western world, Europe, and in the US, and then the whole story and the excitement and everything else was around verticalization. We bought some verticals, we created some of them, we developed our Here Now vertical, which was more the restaurant and entertainment vertical. We bought a vertical called To Do, and this is a vertical whereby all you needed to do was just to type what you want to do. I need to renovate my house. And what it would give you, it give you all the service providers that relates to those who are building cupboards for kitchens, those that are providing appliances and whatever. That's basically what it is. So that's what we bought. We actually bought another vertical called Connector. This is more just a mobile-based search, which actually scans the contacts from your phone, and then it actually business contacts, and it scans your business contacts and the ones of your friends, and then it actually recommends some of the services that your friends are using. And then we built a school and educational portal, and then we had a joint venture that we did here with ZEP in terms of the price comparison. In this phase, what did we learn and what did we realize is that managing multiple brands is actually costly and it's very expensive. It's expensive to maintain, and it's not even easy to maintain in terms of the infrastructure, and how do you get even your salespeople to decide which vertical are they selling into? Are they selling into the main book and selling into the vertical? So those were some of the results of what happened. The third phase of our transformation was when we started realizing that partnership is the most important thing, and in relation to digital, all we needed to do is now to offer some digital services. So we started selling SEA, we offered SEO, reputational management, we did some retargeting, we built e-commerce, e-shops, and then we built some websites using the Camellia platform. So that's basically the space. But the results is that we were playing now in the commodity space. Remember the good old days? 60%, 50% plus of EBITDA margin. You start playing in this place, you're now in the 20 gross margin, not even EBITDA margin. So that's more the commodity space, which in actual fact as well, it comes with its own challenges. Now you have a portfolio of verticals, your own media, and then you have as well your digital media and third-party platforms. And then we tried to do what we know best. We attempted to package the full service offering, for the mass market. Because if you look at it, the customer base that we have from the bigger customers and those who are like buying small items, and we try to force feed this whole thing to the mass market. And we realized that, it's not happening. And this is where I agree with Neil when he said buyers platforms could work, because we realized that with this whole portfolio, there is no way that we could sell all these things by sending reps, whether on the phone and on the field. That was more that's my take on that one. And the other thing is, in dealing with all these complex catalogs, products, and everything else, we realized that we started having a bit of some incompetency, because what we're trying to do, we're trying to get our salespeople to be jack of all trades, which they are not. And we realized that in our back office as well, people need to juggle how to fulfill the print media, which has got some lead time, and as well to fulfill the digital, which we've heard yesterday that if you don't do it so quickly, customers change. And those actually resulted in low morale. They resulted in people not being so excited, and in people even asking the leadership and say, gee, was this whole transformation and change, it's actually bringing in some stress in what they've always done. And we realized that some of the items like your SEO, like we've heard, it's not easy to crack, for some of our reps. I'll give you an example. When we build some SEO products for customers, we had reps would go to a customer and say, all you need to do, you need to buy an SEO product, because once your budget for SEA comes to an end, organic is going to kick in. You'll be number one on organic. And can you imagine if all of them, they're telling all those customers, what happens? Then you start having all these customers that have got what I call unfulfilled expectation. And those things, they create some reputational issues. So those are some of the challenges that we had. Overall, our story became a story of overall revenue was still declining. That was the overall story. Be that it may, there are lessons that you learn. All we did, we learned something that says our processes and systems over the years, they were designed for print. They were never designed for digital. And all we're trying to do was to force feed these processes and systems into digital, which actually requires a different way of dealing with the go-to-market strategy. The other thing that we know is that as we do the go-to-market in terms of our sales, in print, yellow pages organization, we've got this whole sales canvas, because the medium that you're selling It's more an annual medium. So you have one sales cycle, you sell forward, and you get the reps to be charged and excited about that. But the reality is that in selling digital, it's not what you can actually achieve, because this one, it's no longer a one visit sale, it's a multiple visit sale, and that in itself as well did not actually create some confidence and comfort, and there wasn't that success. The other challenge that we had was that we ended up being confused in terms of how do we recruit reps. We had a model that we knew in terms of how we recruit reps. We had the profiling of the reps that worked for the Yellow Pages, and we had a lot of people who wanted to work for the Yellow Pages. Now, in the market, the perception was that, ooh, gee whiz, I don't want to work for the Yellow Pages company. So the people that you're looking for, they become completely different from the profile that you knew. But be that it may, we knew one thing. We did not wish that print was gone, because the one thing that I have learned and that we know, all of us, about transformation is that how do you juggle these tasks of delivering performance on the short-term basis whilst on the long term you're developing the future? Because you'd have myriad of stakeholders from your shareholders and whatever not having the patience with you, because people talk about how do you transform the organization quickly, but you need to say they still want some short-term performance. We looked at the, this is the formula that we've always used, and then we look at this is more the formula for change, whereby we say in the change, you still have the elements of what we always call resistance to change. And I always say people don't resist to change because they mean bad. People resist to change because this change that you're talking about, it's not something that they are comfortable with. They don't mean bad. So now all we say in this equation is that, and we've heard from Paul, when Paul was talking about this whole recipe for transformation, is that it still has to deal with issues around vision and clear purpose and whatever. And we say if your vision and the issues and the factors that you are actually dissatisfied with, and what are those concrete steps that you need to start with, if the product of those three, it's greater than R, which is your resistance, then you know that change is possible. But if you don't have the vision and the future for change, and you cannot articulate what is it that you are dissatisfied with, then you'll continuously be in the mode of resistance to change, and change is not going to be possible. Now, in dealing with the change, all we did was to say, let's go back and understand what is it that has made and shaped our success as a traditional Yellow Pages company. And we found that the strong relationship that we had with small businesses was one of the plus. And we looked at, our organization has always been organizations that are built around the strong sales culture. That is another plus. And then we've always had a product development capability in-house. But the reality is that if you look at the print media, we always sold one product in different variations. We can talk about, we had this whole long list of catalogs and UDEC, it's this size and this size and this size, but at the end of the day, one presence print product. All it differed, it was the size. Was it complex? Not at all. It was just a pricing factor. You want a big page, you pay us more. You want a listing, you pay us less. You want to be in the middle, in column and whatever, that's what you paid. When a salesperson went to visit with that whole price list, you'd think that it's complex, but it's just one product. That's what it was. So did we have capabilities in terms of product development? And I would say in this one, it was a no. Remember, say yes on the relationship, yes on the sales culture. Our processes and systems, like I said, they were designed for print. So would they take us to the next level? The answer is no. We crossed this one. Then we get to the brand. Our people loved our brand. You know, we talked about having yellow blood. That's how we talked about in our organization. Is this the brand that was going to take us to the next level? In our case, we said no. So we crossed this one. And the other thing that we did is that we've always created this whole culture in our organization whereby it's been the culture of learning. We trained our sales rep, we trained our people, we did lots of product training. Reps used to come in, join the yellow pages, and after a while when they left, they were like great salespeople because they used to point and say, I worked at the yellow pages. And people knew that a yellow pages rep, they can sell anything and everything. They would sell you something even if you're not ready to buy. That's how we train them. So we looked at it and we say, these are the things that actually shaped our future. And if you have to go to the future and change, there are things that you need to take, there are things that you need to discard, and there are new things that you need to introduce. So before we did that, so we started looking and saying, let's structure the purpose and say, what's the purpose? What is it that we are about? And we came up in our organization to say it is our business to grow your business to the small. So that was one of the things, because we said from the old days of connecting buyers and sellers, it's something that we know best and we love it, and our people loved it. You ask them, what do? We connect buyers and sellers. So we're gonna live with that, and then we're gonna take something out of it. There was a discussion around ROI. Did we know about ROI, how to measure ROI? Whether we proved ROI or not, but all we knew is that we used to make the phone ring for a small business, and they loved us for that. So that's another part of in terms of our skill set and what we could demonstrate. And then the whole trends in terms of whether you're looking at all these trends that are in the world, whether they talk about omni-channel, omni-customer, omni-whatever. In our case, it was all about localization, and we say local. So if you take all these three and you try and find a sweet spot, and we realize that we actually live in this sweet spot, which is still more about making valuable connections to local customers. And that actually made us to conclude that we are in a business of delivering leads. We're no longer in the business of print and whatever. As long as we can deliver leads to the customers, that's what our business is. And how we deliver them, that is going to be our problem, not the customer's problem. Then for the future, we said, now, let's identify the things that we discard, and then we look at those that we need to create, and the ones that we actually preserving. I did talk about the preservation. Sales culture is going to be core to what we do. That is one of our preservation, and the strong relationship with SMBs is something that we're going to preserve and build on it to get into the future. What are we going to discard? We're going to discard all those old processes. We're going to discard all issues and elements and aspects that were relating to the print media. And then what are we going to create? Which is one of the things that we still work in progress, because we say if we can live and die by the transactions that we deliver to the SMBs, now we start talking about creating a different ecosystem whereby it's no longer more about just providing a presence, but it's got to be more about providing them qualified leads and that are proven to a transaction. If we get to that point, then we will still be relevant, because it's all about how do you now create your own ecosystem. Because the digital products themselves, if we carry on with that and print goes, we're going to be talking about a business that is half the size that we are, if not a quarter of the business that we are. And the conclusion is that it all boils down to culture. Now, the question that we ask ourselves in terms of culture, can you feel, touch culture? The answer is no. But when it's not there, you can actually feel and touch it. I know that the statement that I'm making, it's a bit like an oxymoron. So you cannot feel it, but when it's not there, you know that something is not right. So that's what I'm saying. So what we did in terms of dealing with the whole story around digital is that we concluded that we're going to separate the business. We're going to take our Yellow Pages business under the Trudon banner, and all we're going to do there, we're going to do all own media business. So anything that has got to do with our media, we will deal with it in this entity. And then we created an entity called Leads Machine, and in Leads Machine, all we're going to do, we're going to develop, sell, and deal only with all products that requires third parties. So that's how we approached it. And the reason we took this, like I said, on the things that you could discard and whatever, is that we still have about 69% of our revenue in print. So there is no way that we could try and deal with all these things in one umbrella. So whilst we're preserving that, we had to say, you know, let's build an arc so that when it starts flooding, one day, all of us will migrate and move from here to here. If we're still relevant. Those who come from here, if they are still relevant, they can provide relevant skills, then they can cross over. And if you are unable to cross over, the door might be closed. So that's the way we approach the whole thing, because like I say, it's not easy to start from it's easy to start from a clean slate, but it becomes difficult to try and correct things within the existing environment. Now we're talking about building that whole culture, which is getting back to what I've been asked to talk about. And we employed new people in Leads Machine. All we needed is people who are digitally savvy and people who's got this whole, you know, digital excites them. And we started this with all new people. None of our traditional sales, fulfillment, and everyone else came from the old business to Leads Machine. So we started from a clean slate. And the way we structured it, we realized that it's not about silos. In our business, we had silos about sales, fulfillment, distribution, and whatever. And then we said in this environment, the culture that we're creating is that everybody else is going to be working in what we call virtual teams. Because we knew that the complexity of digital is all about, you have to measure the performance of the campaign, how successful the campaigns are, multiple visits, and we realized that our traditional salespeople couldn't do this. And what we did, we had teams whereby you have, for a number of salespeople, you have what we call account managers. Salespeople go and visit customers, and then they come up with probably a closed contract. But now in terms of how campaigns are going to be structured, developed, fulfilled, you had account managers who were the ones that are talking to the customer, because some of the campaigns you need material, you need collateral, you need this. And if you don't have those things in time, then you start having not meeting the 14 days that we had, that if you don't do it in 14 days, they are gone. So we had to create that whole environment whereby the account management are the one that would liaise in collating material, whatever, for us to create Facebook campaigns for the customers and whatever. And then, so in those teams, you have an account manager, a product person, and the fulfillment person, all in that team, and as well supporting a salesperson. And all of them, they are all measured on exactly the same performance matrix, which is all about revenue, the successfulness of the campaign, and how quickly and the quality of that campaign in terms of fulfillment, and then you make sure that the matrix are all aligned. And there's this whole thing about customer centricity, and in our case, customer centricity, we only define it in one thing that says, as it says. You put the customer in the center, everyone else is around the customer, and that what we realize on the Trudon business is that centricity and service has never been our culture. We came from a business whereby customers phoned us to be on the yellow pages. Now this time we have to go and beg them to actually do their work. That's the different culture. So these people here, they know how to beg the customer, they know how to nurture the customer, they know how to deal with the customer, as opposed to the other one, if a customer says no, it's a cancellation, we move on. And the next thing after we've done that, we started segmenting the customers. We took some of the customers from the Yellow Pages business in terms of identifying them, not only on spend or size, but in terms of the nature of their business, their propensity to buy digital products, because they were buying products from other, they bought print, but they bought digital products and everything else from other digital agencies. So we segmented those customers, and then we said, these are the customers that a select number of customers that the people in Leads Machine would actually service. And then I spoke about that we employed different salespeople, and everything, the talk in that environment is all about digital, and it's not about anything that is traditional. Now, this is a journey. All we know is that we're not yet there. But the one thing that we know is that if you really just focus on third-party products, whilst you're used to high margin, that in itself makes the leadership and everybody else continuously to keep on reverting back to what they know. So in this instance, we knew that let's define some of the elements that would actually define success, and then we talk about customer excellence and customer service, and the issues around the brand. You know, for us here, the brand, it was not only about just the Yellow Pages brand, but it's more about the offering on Leads Machine here to say the people need to identify with the brand, because branding is not just about a nice logo, but for me, branding, we look at it in terms of the way you do things, the reputation you have in the market, and it's not even about the amount of money that you spend in advertising, but if you support all those in terms of how people are excited because they are your ambassadors with the brand, and how passionate they are, then at least you know that you are on your way to success. The other thing that we know is that in Leads Machine, all we created is that we moved away from silos, and we created teams. People in that environment, the way they sit, where they do work, you'd never find somebody just doing things alone. They're collaborating, they're sitting together, they all discussing the issues around the customer, and it's all about teamwork because they have one common goal. And the one thing that I know, they love what they're doing. They enjoying what they are doing. And it's because they are not looking at it in relation to just the bottom line numbers. They're looking at it from on the base of saying how successful some of those campaigns that they've done for the customers. And for them, that's what they talk about on a day-to-day basis. In conclusion, all I want to say is that it is still work in progress. Neil will be talking about this again in the next 5 or so years. The one thing that we can say is that the results are promising, but we are not yet there. And the key for us, as I conclude, is that until, because we come from an environment whereby we own the medium, and we have enjoyed the success of owning a medium. When you get to third-party products, you don't own anything. Until we, as an organization, and having heard some of the presentations here around beacons and that, until we try to get to a point whereby there are certain things that we own. How do you create an ecosystem that you own? And if I look at the yellow pages from classification A to Z, we have lost over the years certain categories. It started with professional services, and as they kept on moving, and what we try to do with third-party products, we try to sell them to everyone, and which is not gonna work. And the only thing is, I still believe, and having heard about the stories around Amazon and what our business and people, in terms of what they know us as, it's always been around home services. If we could carve out, which is what we're trialing now, the home services category, from a plumber to a tree feller, a roofer, and everything that relates to the home, we carve out and we create an ecosystem whereby we control that from the time that you offer presence to performance, to engagement, to payment. If we don't do that, as Yellow Pages publishers, we're going to disappear. That's my view, and I believe if you look at, we've heard about Uberization of these and whatever, if you look at all these verticals, whether it's Uber or Airbnb and whatever, what they've done, they pick up one vertical. And in our case, because we've always been masters of A to Z, and we try to do everything A to Z, there is no way that we're going to succeed. And I think our approach going forward in South Africa is that we're going to try and create a vertical around home services, but it's not only about only presence, but it's going to be all about taking payments. And up until there, if we live and die by the payments, we believe that we're going to be relevant. Thank you.
Thank you, Thabo. That was great. So we'll have to take a couple questions if there are any in the audience. I have several. Leeds machine has been operating for how long?
It's about 2.5 years.
Okay.
Yes.
So
we started. I was in Shanghai in 2013, and that's when we started the Leeds machines.
Okay.
You know, the incorporation.
And in the 2.5 years, has there been? Is one of the effects that the people in the Trudon organization is, do they look longingly at Leeds machine as the place that they want to be, and is there any path for them to get in there, or have you sort of kept that wall pretty firm?
Yeah, what we did, we realized that if you want to change the culture and you try to accommodate people that are on the other side, we have our way, we do things our way, And there is no way that you're going to change people's mindset. People need to be the ones that change themselves, and it's all about attitude. So the process that we took was that we're not going to take anyone from Trudon right up until we have a strong, entrenched culture that if somebody comes in there, they cannot break it. But in the early stages, it's easy for it to be broken, and it's easy for us to retract back to what we all know.
Anyone? Okay, well, I'll keep going. Oh, we got a question here.
Did you let leads machine free to cannibalize the old business, the print business?
Very good question, because that was the biggest, you asked a question about how long have we been operating. The first year, that was the biggest fight between the old business and the leads machine, whereby the issues that I had to deal with was more about they cannibalizing our customers, they doing this, and you know, you have to be an arbitrator, and then as an arbitrator, you start leaning back to some of these guys that you know better, and after a while, 6 months, we ended up saying, you know what, free for all, do whatever you want to do, no arbitration. It's better, we took a view that says, if we cannibalize ourselves, it's far much better than being cannibalized by other people.
Is the overlap significant?
Eat your own
There
lunch
is,
before
yes.
somebody else eats it for you.
Yes. But we didn't do it immediately, I can tell you, because we're trying to protect the other guys, and you have all the reps that have been there, they come in and say, so-and-so has done this thing. In my case, I know them, I've been to sales incentives with them, and I say, this one, you stop. And I realized that, no, it was not right. Then the issue was that free for all. Yes.
Is the leads machine customer typically a higher end customer, higher spend, average spend customer?
Not all higher spend customers, because what we did, we categorize customers on the basis of their business, and because we still have high spending customers who are still on the Trudon side, whereby they still more on the print side, but on the leads machine, yes, you're right, because we don't have a lot of people on leads machine. It's more high spenders on digital, because we looked at what they were spending on digital overall, even if it wasn't the digital that they spent with us, and then we said those are the customers that they might have been spending a little bit with us, but spending more on digital with other people. So we said these are the leads machine customers.